Hello and welcome everyone to a new Heroes of Might and Magic Olden Era video. In this one we're going to be going over every single available subclass in the game. Ultimate class, subclass, I'm not really even sure what to call it. For the purposes of this video, and to keep it simple, I'm going to be keeping it at subclasses. So we're going to be going every single faction and I will show you the good ones, basically. When you should be going for them, and whether it's actually realistic, and whether it's actually good in the very first place. So we're going to be going on, and yeah, we're going to be starting off with Temple. So Temple is honestly like pretty bad when it comes to subclasses. There's only like basically one strategy that you should be prioritizing in terms of playing a subclass. So we're going to be needing a hero from both of the... yeah, we have ourselves a cleric and we have ourselves a knight. We can get these two bad boys out and we can review the classes. So the knight is like a pretty good class. They start off with righteousness, as all temple heroes do. And then their two subclasses are the swashbuckler and the paragon. The paragon effect, friendly creatures deal maximum damage and take minimum damage. Now this is a pretty cool good effect. It makes you deal maximum damage and take minimum damage. So this is going to be best whenever you have like high, basically swing creatures. The most notable of which would be like a Ravager. However, Castle doesn't really like have super wide damage ranges in their faction. And taking minimum damage is honestly like not really that great of an effect either. So Paragon is... you know, it would be a good task if you could achieve it easily. However, there's like many skills that you would need to get on a Paragon that you would otherwise not really go for. That includes tactics. Tactics is like very situational. You don't always go for it. Diplomacy. Diplomacy in the current meta you almost never go for, so you would only be picking up the skill for the sake of getting the subclass. That's pretty bad. Avatar is a good skill that really does not function well on knights in general, and also will be really hard to get. So this subclass is really hard to get, contains a lot of trash skills, and even if you go for it, you're not likely to get it, and if you do get it, the payoff is not immediately winning the game. So with all of that said, Paragon is like stricken out, pretty bad. And by the way, just for moving forward, these are the three criterias that we're going to be rating the subclasses on. Number one is payoff, like how good is the payoff. Then number two, how available is it? If you go for it, how likely are you to score it? And then number three is that if you do score it, how many of the sub-skills that you're getting alongside getting the class are absolute garbage. So when it comes to Paragon, like at least two skills are going to be garbage, you're not likely to get it, the payoff is good, but the other criteria fail, so you're not going to be going for Paragon. The Swashbuckler, on the other hand, is pretty damn good. However, it requires combat, so usually whenever you go combat, you go like for the Gambit Strike setup. So you're going to be going combat and you're going to be going leadership, so that's already like two skills secured in your skill tree. Then, of course, because you're playing a knight, you're also going to be having righteousness. So you only have like 5 skill slots left over. Fortunately, in order to become Swashbuckler, leadership is one of the prerequisites. So you're going to be needing to get 4 out of those 5 skills to be the specific Swashbuckler skills. However, many of these skills are pretty good. Offense is amazing, top tier skill. Wisdom is also surprisingly really good. At least, I mean, it's not like really that good, but whenever you go late game, you kind of need like a spell source, and sometimes just having wisdom is actually good enough in order to get you spellcasting, so it's not a bad skill to pick up. Luck is also like a good skill on most might heroes because it makes you, yeah, just randomly one-shot things once in a while. So as long as you're not like a very all-in sort of playstyle that just relies on winning in one turn, luck will eventually give you enough benefit to warrant having. Then the only undesirable skill here is Nightshade, and even this undesirable skill is actually like pretty decent. It will do like some work for you. So Swashbuckler, you know, in terms of like the first criteria of like availability, is pretty damn available. You can get this like decently often in your games. Then For the criteria of like how many trash skills you're going to be getting, the answer is like 0.5 trash skills, with Wisdom and Nightshade being 0.25 each, you know? Like, decent but situational. And then the payoff. Heroic Strike deals 60 basic damage, plus 16. Now, this might not seem like a lot, but with the way that the Heroic Strike scales, this is insane damage boost for your combat setups. It makes your... yeah, it makes your Heroic Strike just basically one-shot things. Well, one-shot is like an exaggeration, but it deals like a really, really good amount of damage, even good enough to be relevant in late-game armies. So I would say that you should always keep your mind open for going for Swashbuckler whenever you're going combat leadership anyway. You know, like maybe you got combat leadership immediately into your game because you're like playing Mandel, you started off with combat, you know, you're playing a knight, you ended up getting leadership, so that's like already a combo. Then you got offense because offense is amazing. By that point, you only like need 3 skills, you know, you're gonna be really looking out for it. And if you get it, the payoff is huge. So Swashbuckler, like A tier, like subclass, really, really good. Should go for it pretty often. I love it. I only had like 1 Swashbuckler game so far, and it was amazing. So yeah, these are the Knight subclasses. Then when it comes to Clerics, they are not really as lucky, I would say. So first off is we have the Grand Inquisitor. The enemy can use 1 spell once per battle. So immediately let's talk about payoff. I would say that in the late game, the battle realistically lasts for like 2 or 3 turns. It might actually like last for like 5 turns, but like it's basically decided within the first like 2 or 3 turns. Meaning that, you know, getting the opponent to like not be able to like wait out their cooldowns and use their spells again is not really like generally that great. So the payoff is not good. Unfortunately, despite not meeting the payoff criteria, the Grand Inquisitor does kind of like fit the bill when it comes to the other two. Armor, Battle Magic are amazing sub-skills that you should be picking up on your Clerics whenever you see them anyway. Really, really good ones. Insight also is just like a straight-up W skill. The best Cleric in the game, Pip, at least generally speaking, starts off with Insight even, so you don't even have to worry about it. Then you just need to pick up Scouting, which is good in some formats. For example, in Vendetta and in Jeebus Outcast, Scouting is actually like a really good skill. If you can fit it in, if you can fit that skill in somehow, then it will give you like a lot of value. You're going to be able to see where to DD better, where to get the best content available for you at any point. Then the Arcane Magics is not preferable. I would say it's basically like half a skill. But if you're going to be achieving like a subclass for half a skill wasted, then it's generally going to be like worth it. But for Grand Inquisitor, it's not really that worth it. With the game being the way that it is right now, I don't really see the subclass being that great. And next up is we have the Ascendant. Yeah, the payoff is all the hero spells always cost 0 mana. So this is infinity mana. Garbage. I'm sorry. Clerics tend to go for like a lot of knowledge, and in the late game, we're going to be having like a bunch of items, you're going to be getting a bunch of level ups, so basically mana at a certain point in the late game of Heroes of Might and Magic becomes a non-issue, a trivial thing. You're just going to have mana. So having more mana when you have enough mana is not even a payoff. It's really trash. Not to mention you need to go economy. That's like 0 skill, you know, not 0.25, it's 0. And yeah, for these reasons, I feel like Ascendant is just a failure. So if you're playing a Cleric, you're probably playing a Cleric. You're not really going for the Grand Inquisitor, and you're not really going for the Ascendant. So I would say the only viable subclass in the Castle faction is going to be the Swashbuckler. So yeah, Temple is not very good for subclasses. So now we're going to be going off to the second faction. The next one that we'll overview is going to be Dungeon. Actually, no, let's just go in order here. Let's go Necropolis. Necropolis subs ultimates are generally like pretty easy, but also like pretty weak. From my experience. I once faced, well, yeah, okay, let's go to get over it. So we have our Death Knight over here, then we're gonna be needing to pick up, Necromancer. We're gonna be getting the zeros out, and we will start with the Death Knight. So the Death Knight can be Harbinger of Doom. Enemy creatures always have their minimum possible luck and will always land unlucky strikes when attacking. So yeah, let's go over the criteria. So the first criteria is payoff. Honestly, that's like a really cool payoff. You're basically taking half damage, 50% damage reduction. Yeah, that is really good. It makes your, you know, like the mighty part of your army just really reliable and amazing. Then the skills that you need for it is armor, excellent skill, sorcery, not preferred on a Death Knight, but probably like not the end of the world, like 0.5 skills for a Death Knight, primal magic, pretty bad, like Death Knights don't really want to be casting primal spells. They usually want to be like either buffing or debuffing, you know, like something like that, or maybe applying damage over time, like Naru Schism, maybe if your early game is going to be Despair. Primal does not really like fit in. Next up is we have Luck. Luck is pretty good. It just lets you, you know, once in a while deal more damage, be more consistent in that kind of way. And then the last one is going to be Scouting. Scouting is good in specific formats and pretty damn bad in other ones. So basically you're wasting a few skills here, and also I feel like some of these skills are also not very likely for you to get. I feel like Primal, Sorcery, and Scouting is going to be like a pretty unlikely combination for you to be able to assemble to become a Harbinger of Doom. So I don't think it's actually a subclass that is very likely to happen. The only time that I would go for this big payoff subclass is if you get a university that will get some of the harder to get skills for you. So maybe you like visit a university, you see like Primal and Sorcery, while you already have like Armor and Luck. Then, you know, you only need to like fight in Scouting somewhere, and if you still have like level ups remaining, then it's gonna be like pretty likely. In that situation, I would go for, but otherwise, I would not really try to go on this adventure, because you're gonna be very likely to end up with a bunch of like dead skills that do nothing for you, and no real payoff to speak of. The other subclass is Walking Rot. All enemies have their minimum possible morale. So yeah, I was playing against Walking Rot. And now it's Fortune's favored. It was a subclass versus subclass matchup. The Walking Rod did absolutely garbage nothing. I had like my minimal morale. I at most like mismoraled like once in a fight. Now maybe I got lucky, but honestly this is like so unreliable. If you're gonna be going for like an ultimate skill, as in like the subclass, it needs to be able to do something. It doesn't like... Having a chance to be like somewhat good is just not good enough. It doesn't cut it. So the payoff is weak. Then also you're going to be needing to pick up Diplomacy. You don't want Diplomacy. Tactics? Yeah, sometimes maybe. And then also Wisdom. Yeah, so basically too many trash skills and not enough payoff. Walking Wrath also fails the bill. So Death Knights will usually be Death Knights, and honestly, Death Knights are pretty good, so that's like not too bad. Next up is we have the Necromancers. Now, Necromancers are more interesting than good as well. We have the Soul Weaver. After an enemy stack is killed in battle, a temporary stack of friendly whites appears in their place. Honestly, I'm not even sure how many whites spawn, but I would assume it is probably the number of units in the stack that ended up dying. But yeah, the good part about a Soul Weaver is the fact that you get like most of the skills that you would otherwise want to have. Logistics, awesome. Insight, awesome. Avatar, awesome. Battlecraft is going to be like your most unlikely skill to get, because this is like more of a Might Hero subclass, skill. So that's going to be like probably your bottleneck for being able to become a Soul Weaver. And then Arcane Magic, I feel like you can pick it up like pretty often, but it's not really a skill that you do want to pick up. So you're basically like wasting half a skill for like a pretty mediocre payoff. If you're kind of getting these skills like Insight, Avatar, and Laga, then I would probably look out for Battlecraft and be able to pick up the subclass. But honestly, it's kind of mid. It's good in the sense that it's easy, and it's good in the sense that you're not wasting skill. But the payoff is whatever. And next up is we have the Chronomancer. Necromancy works for all creatures and not just the undead. That's really interesting. You can use Necromancy to raise angels, to raise, you know, like, yeah, just straight up archangels and any other units. I think, however, it is like too niche. You have to be playing Necro with non-Necro army, and that doesn't happen in many formats, and, you know, like, the entire hoops that you have to jump through to make this possible, it seems like pretty insane. I think this is like some sort of a PvE trip fantasy like subclass, but it's not really viable in online play, at least for now. It also requires you to have like many unlikely skills like offense and tactics on a Necromancer. And also you need to have Estates, which you really don't want to have in general. So you're wasting skills, you're unlikely to get it, and the payoff is like whack and way too specific. Also, very bad subclass. So yeah, once again, we have a faction that is very not good when it comes to being, you know, becoming a cool subclass. So those are the Necro ones. Then we're just going to be jumping into Grove. And Grove is where it gets quite a bit better. It has my probably favorite subclass in the entire game. One where I got a taste of it, and now nothing is ever really the same. We have our Warden, and we are going to be having another Warden? Is that possible? I thought... Okay, we're going to be just going for a few heroes here. I don't know where the delete hero button is. There we go. There we go. Perfect. Okay. So first up is the Warden. The Warden first can become the Wellspring of Vigor. Generates the maximum focus charges at the beginning of the round. So this subclass, it does actually meet like two criteria. If you end up getting Insight and Battle Magics, then it's going to be like pretty realistic for you to get the skill. And then also all of these sub-skills that you require in order to become the subclass are actually like really good. Insight good, Leadership good, Daylight good, Battle Magic great, and Resistance is great as well. So you're not going to be losing out on any good skills by going for the subclass, since all of these skills are actually like pretty damn nice. And in terms of likeliness, I don't really know. It's gonna be like a little bit specific. Battle Magic, I think, is gonna be a little bit hard to find on the Warden. But if you find it and you're kind of already like leaning in that direction, then you could become the Wellspring of Vigor. However, where it does fail is the payoff. Generating maximum focus charges at the beginning of the round is just not really like that great of an effect. When it comes to playing Grove, you know, like you're going to be awakening your units, and that's basically like all of that you're doing with your focus in the late game. There's not very many great focus dumps on the faction where you can just get like really good value by having a lot of focus. So, not to mention you go into the battle already with maximum focus anyway, because you have like the Murmuring skill. So this seems like it's solving a problem that never really existed in the first place. So the payoff is bad, so I would say that despite meeting like 2 of the 3 criteria, the Wellspring of Vigor is still not good. Next up though is the Fortune's Favored, and this reads, friendly creatures have their maximum possible luck and will always land a lucky strike when attacking. Now that is insane! This is basically reads to me as, hey, you deal triple damage. Yeah, you heard it right, you're just dealing triple damage. Because when you're playing Grove, you have laws that will boost your Lucky Strike damage. This boosts it by 50%. So, and also like there's other ways to boost the Lucky Damage deal. So you're not even dealing double damage, you're dealing triple damage guaranteed with every single hit. That is insane! One of the biggest payoffs for a subclass that I've seen in the game so far. In terms of the skills, offense is great, luck is great, wisdom is okay, primal is pretty okay for this faction because they get like a lot of power from those hoplets, so they can actually like function with primal magic pretty well. And then you're gonna be having to sack an entire secondary skill in the form of Diplo. So that's like a pretty big price to pay, but the payoff is so huge that you should usually like try for it if you're at least like remotely close to being able to get it. This subclass feels so good to play. It's yeah, it's really insane. It's yeah, it's beautiful. It's really beautiful. So I would recommend going for this one. One of the best subclasses in the game, at least the way that I see it. Next up is we have the Druid. The Druid can become Celestial Envoy. The hero can use all spells. So this one, immediately it requires economy, so that's like one dead skill that you're never going to be able to see again. Then you also need Scouting, which is pretty specific, only good for specific formats. And then you have Arcane, which is probably one of the weaker schools of magic in general. So that's like pretty lame as well. However, Armor usually want anyway. Avatar is really good. You want it on most of your druids as well. So it's like relatively easy to get. Basically, if I had like Armor, Avatar, and Scouting, which was like a pretty likely scenario, and I ended up getting offered the 4th skill, then maybe I would try to push and get like the Celestial Envoy. However, the problem is that usually by the time that you're getting to like late game stages that you get like a subclass in, you're gonna be having like enough like good spells to cast that you don't really like need this payoff. The payoff is like pretty weak, you know? Like, yeah, if you have like good casting options, having more good casting options is like not even that big of a thing. Not to mention if you're Celestial Envoy, then it's probably gonna be like pretty hard for you to fit in Thaumaturgy. Without Thaumaturgy, you're not even casting like 2 spells per round, which means that, you know, like having that many spells is like not even that big of a benefit. So I would say that Celestial Envoy is not good. Next up is Heaven's Fury. Heroic Strike deals damage to all enemies in a 1 hex radius. So your Heroic Strike becomes a fireball. Meh. Because like druids don't really specialize in these Heroic Strike builds anyway. And also for Heroic Strike to be good, you need combat and you also need leadership most of the time. So those are like 2 skills already that you need extra in order to make Heaven's Fury good. So it's basically like a 7 skill subclass for like a mediocre payoff anyway. I mean, you know, like maybe you'll catch the opponents off guard with like the first like Heroic Strike, but it's not even gonna do that much. And then, you know, you'll just like spread out and your secondary class is useless now. So yeah, I think druids will be druids and they will not really go and become something else most of the time. So those are the Grove subclasses. Next up is going to be Hive. Hive was like a little bit of a sore spot because I ended up trying once to become a subclass and I had all the skills with the opponent GG'd out, so I didn't get to try it. Womp womp. I think we have 2 heralds here. Yeah. So let's try and find the appropriate one. I think we got one. No. Bro, if I run out of gold, I swear. Okay, whatever, we're doing it. So, if you're going to be playing a Herald, you're going to be able to become a Progenitor. And Progenitor is going to be giving you 2% creature growth in all of your cities. So for that, you're going to be needing armor and avatar. These are pretty good skills. However, they're not going to be like very likely for you to get. You also need Diplo and tactics. So you're playing a mage type hero, you're going to be able to like level up into more mage focus secondaries. That's going to be like wisdom, schools of magic, you know, thaumaturgy and so on. So it's going to be very unlikely for you to become a progenitor. And if you do become a progenitor, the payoff is actually not really that great. 200% might seem like a lot. However, this creature growth does not take into account most of the scaling that you get for your creature growth in the first place. So there's like the base growth, you know, like let's say for a tier 6 unit, the base growth is 2. So you're going to be getting 2 units. Then usually if you're going to be buying these units out, then you're going to be having like a dwelling somewhere out there. The dwelling will increase your growth by 1, so you're up to 3. Then of course if you're playing the unit, then you're going to be also like picking up the law for like elite wormhole. So that makes your growth 4. And then let's say you also build out the castle, then the build out is 6. However, this 200%, what it will do is it will actually get you from 6 growth in this scenario, and you know, it will make it 10. That's because plus 200% is only going from like the baseline growth, and actually the fortifications might get amplified, but I'm not really sure. We will need to test that out. However, the point is it doesn't scale your law growth, it doesn't scale your dwelling growth. It's a lot less army than you might otherwise assume. You also are ending up with like Diplomacy and Arcane, which are pretty trash skills. You probably don't really want Tactics and not the most scenario either. So you're wasting like a lot of skills. Then you're also, you know, ending up with many trash skills. So I would say that this subclass is not really good whatsoever. And next up is we have Lord of Chaos. So I'm not really sure why all these like mage type heroes are getting like these heroic strike secondaries. It says heroic strike deals plus 2 damage per each hero attribute point. Now this can be insane scaling. Like let's say you're 40 all stats in the late game, which is pretty realistic in many formats. That would be 320 damage for your heroic strike. But the thing is that a Lord of Chaos is not really going to be able to like get many ways of resetting the heroic strike. You're going to be needing like leadership in order to get the inspiring strike. You're going to be needing combat to get like battle thrill and effortless, so you can actually like use some heroic strikes. And yeah, so basically once again, this is like a 7 sub-skill subclass. And it doesn't really like make sense whatsoever in this current way that things are. It does actually meet the other requirements. All the skills that you need to become Lord of Chaos are skills that you otherwise would like to get. And, yeah. It's actually not super likely for you to become a Lord of Chaos, even if you push for it, because offense, like, and scouting are going to be, like, probably pretty hard to find on a Herald. But, nonetheless, yeah. I don't really think this is good enough. You need to have ways to reset your heroic strikes. Using it once per turn is not really good enough in order to like be investing into that in the first place. So I would say that the hero subclasses are a failure. There's also like not that many good heralds on the yeah, in Inferno in the first place. Okay. Then we'll just quickly reset in order to find the Might Hero counterpart of the Inferno that we can then reveal for these subclasses. There we go, Zoran, the Soul-Founded, an Enforcer. So an Enforcer can become Broodmother, doubles the base stats of Summoned Fire Larva. Honestly, it seems pretty trash. If you're scaling your larva, you're basically scaling it with base damage and unit quantity. Getting like the stats to be doubled seems like not really that great of a payoff, especially when you're gonna be needing to go for some trash in order to get it. Yeah, economy is just like a completely death skill, complete garbage. Nightshade is not really like a good fit for Hive, and Battlecraft, I don't know, I don't like it. Many good players say it's a good skill, so I kind of trust them on that, but it's honestly just like a trust basis. I don't really want it. So I would say the Broodmother is pretty trash. Soul Eater, on the other hand, is very, very interesting, and I think the only viable subclass in the entire faction. It says, grants a new battle ability. It allows you to consume a target corpse, gaining bonus attack, defense, and spell power until the end of battle. So you get infinite scaling of your secondary attributes throughout the final fight. Well, it's not infinite, because there can only be that many corpses. However, if you have eaten most of the units on the battlefield, then your stats are probably already like infinite and way higher than the opponents, and you're already winning. The really good part about this subclass is the fact that all the skills on this subclass are things that you already kind of want anyway. Insight is amazing, Laga is really good, Resistance is essential in many scenarios, Battle Magic really, really good, and probably going to be the bottleneck for whether you can become a Soul Leader or not. Because I feel like Battle Magic is going to be like pretty hard to find, and Daylight is just like pretty awesome because you're going for big armies on Hive, and big armies really like big buffs. Daylight is going to be giving them to you. The way that the sub-skill works is I believe you get like a 0 focus cost ability like Heroic Stride that you can use like once per round in order to like click on the corpse, and no matter what the corpse is, I think you're going to be getting like 3 or 5 all stats until the ending of the fight. So this one could be like really, really cool to use. And yeah, I once had all the skills and almost became a Soul Eater. I was gonna be a Soul Eater, but the opponent ended up dying off somewhere, so I didn't get to like experience it. And so I can't really like share that experience with you, unfortunately. But I think it's actually good, because it kind of like meets all the criteria. The payoff is probably like the weaker of the 3 criteria to meet. But honestly, it could be good. I can see it being good. And the fact that it's easy and all the sub-kills are viable is a very, very big bonus for it. So yeah, Enforcers will sometimes become Soul Eaters and be a menace in the Finalka by gobbling up your corpses. So that's that. For the Hive faction. Then we can go into Schism. Yeah, if you don't usually get like subclasses, by the way, don't feel bad. They are an exceptional thing that you only like sometimes go for. It's a situational thing. And also, one of the main ways that you're going to be achieving subclasses is by going for the 4 Scholar Shrine, I think it's called, that will let you relearn the entire hero, which is going to be really hard to do in online games because the timer is short and you need to be like leveling up from like level 1 to like level 25 all over again. Which is, yeah, not exactly like that easy to do. We once again have 2 Rift Speaker. No, that's an Oath Keeper. Okay. Okay, so Rift Speakers can become unstoppable. Unstoppable is going to be providing you 10 all stats. So that's like a pretty mediocre payoff. In the late game, the stats are going, by the time that you get to like a subclass, the stats are going to be like really, really high across the board. So getting 10 all stats is going to be like, let's say, a 20% increase to all of your stats, which honestly is like pretty good. And the subclasses here, I mean, the skills that you need are also like not really bad. I don't really like tactics or battlecraft, especially on Schism, and I feel like it's going to be... Unstoppable mostly fails in the sense of achievability. I don't usually like see Battlecraft offered to me as a level up on a Rift Speaker like almost ever, Tactics either. So you can get Battle Magic, you can kind of get Insight, Primal is also not too hard, but like the other 2 skills, I mean, you're going to be very rarely seeing them. I would recommend going for the subclass only if you find a university. If you find a university with these skills, then hell yeah, you can activate this and you can play for this, and the payoff is gonna be decent. It will at the very least like feel good. It will always do something for you. So that's not bad. And next up is the Unfathomable. Jesus, this word always kills me. Anyway, all enemies deal minimum damage and take maximum damage. So the payoff is exactly the same as it is for Paragon, unless I'm missing something. It's basically Perma-Bless and Perma-Curse. Like Heroes 3 Blessing Curse. So yeah, the skill is really good. And honestly, it's like very easy to achieve. On my first, I think, PvP Schism game, I became unfathomable, and that's how I ended up beating Ordelops on my first ranked PvP game. I mean, yeah, this was my first ladder win against Ordia. Also, probably only my second game against Ordia, so that was really great. All these skills in the subclass are skills that you otherwise want anyway. Avatar is great. Armor is great, luck is great, log is amazing, and then arcane is this faction's specialty. So going for like your specialty faction, you're picking up other great skills. It's very, I mean, yeah, I would say it's actually like decently consistent to achieve. You're not going to be getting it all the time, but very usually you'll find yourself in situations where it's available. So you can pick this up pretty easily. You're not really losing out on any value because all the skills that you have are great anyway. You're just getting this insane bonus on top of everything else. And that's really when the subclasses shine. So Unfathomable, in my opinion, is big thumbs up. Something to always watch out for every single time that you're playing a Rift Speaker. Sometimes you're just going to be winning games off of that alone. A really good subclass, well balanced. Next up is we have the Oathkeeper. So the Oathkeeper is going to be Unbound. Unbound increases the level of all hero spells to their maximum. So the difference between like a minimum level spell and a maximum level spell is like miles apart. You're going from like doing nothing to like, you know, like swinging the entire battle with a single cast of a spell if you're casting like max level spells. So, and also all of these skills that you need to become Unbound are also like pretty easy to achieve. I mean, no, not easy to achieve, but rather good. Offense great, sorcery is, well, kinda decent for an Oathkeeper. Daylight is pretty good, leadership is amazing, and scouting is situationally good. So the biggest loser here is the sorcery. And the thing is that sorcery, you're not really going to be seeing it very often on your level up options. So yeah, sorcery is the biggest bottleneck for becoming Unbound. So that's like pretty rough. And pretty hard to pilot, honestly. Once again, if you find a university with sorcery and you already have like one or two of the other skills, then I would actually say that this one is like interesting to go for, but not really that amazing, as the payoff is mediocre. Max level spells are really good, as I said, but they're achievable in other ways, you know? So you don't really like have to go above and beyond in order to become Unbound. You can just like find 7 Eyes, upgrade it, equip it onto your head slot, and that item will make all of your spells kind of like max level almost by default, if you have like 1 or 2 other bonuses for the sake of that. So yeah, the payoff is mediocre, the achievability is mediocre. At the very least, like the skills are something that you kind of want to have anyway. The other one is Unfeeling. Enemy loses all focus charges at the beginning of combat. This one is just like one of the worst subclasses that I've ever seen in the game. The payoff is whack. Like, you know, if the opponent needs focus, you can generate enough focus usually throughout the round and then use whatever they need in that round. And also, in order to become the skill, you would need to pick up like so many both unlikely and unwanted things. Diplo and Economy? Really? 2 just completely dead skills, then Nightshade? You don't want Nightshade. Like, yeah, it's really trash. Never go for Unfeeling. So yeah, that is Schism. The best one is of course going to be the Unfathomable. I love this subclass, it's really great. Just like a super good balance of a decent reward, achievability, and just generally having like good skills anyway. Then the last one is gonna be Dungeon. Dungeon is at the very least like very consistent with its payoff. You're gonna be doubling a certain skill most of the time, and it's probably like yeah, I have seen most people be dungeon subclasses over any others in the game. And that's a Warlock. That's not good. Oh, Kieran. That's good. Okay. So now the first stop is let's go immediately to the big one, Amelch's Heir. So this subclass doubles your power, insane payoff, like really insane payoff. Yeah, it's amazing. You get in the late game, you're going to be having like 80 power on a Warlock. That's actually pretty realistic. And then you can double it into like 160. Not to mention the Triumvirate Dragon Stance that gives you 6 power is also doubled. So like on the go effects that, you know, like generate the power for you throughout the battle. Amelch's Heir also applies to that as well, which is super strong. So for these reasons, this is the subclass that I've seen people achieving most of the time. Somehow. Now, if we look at the skills, you need Battlecraft, which is going to be both unlikely and not really wanted, so you're probably picking a Battlecraft mostly for the sake of, you know, becoming Amelch's Heir. Avatar, you want probably Avatar on most of your Warlocks anyway. It is amazingly powerful, it is really good for Dungeon because of Triumvirate's strength. You can just have like some baseline good power level, and then you can just like slam down the Avatar and it's just like really strong. Then Primal, Dungeon really likes Primal spells because of their high power tier. They usually function off of early game Primal casting, especially if they don't have the Avatar. Insight, which is just like generally a really good skill. It gives you a lot of law points, it gives you faster hero growth, it's just a really good one to have. And then the most undesirable, at least for a Warlock and hardest to achieve, is gonna be Tactics. Yeah, I would say in order to like achieve Amelch's Heir, you do need to go for like a university or two in order to try to find some of these skills. Or if you get them offered to you, then okay, you high roll, then now you're gonna be having double power, which is amazing. So most people are really looking out to become Amelch's Heir throughout their games. The payoff is really big, one of the biggest ones out of all of these caster classes in the game. So yeah, that's pretty awesome. The other subclass for the Warlock is going to be the Great Merchant. The Great Merchant is pretty trash. I mean, it produces gold. By the time that you're going to be going for a subclass, that you're going to be achieving a subclass, you're already going to be in the ballpark of being able to do warrior ruins, like research laboratories, dragon utopias, which are going to be generating infinity gold for you. So getting like just 10,000 gold income by that stage of the game is just like not really a big deal. Not to mention you would have to go out of your way for arcane magic and economy. So yeah, just a pretty bad one with not enough payoff, not even near enough payoff in order for you to go for it. Next up is we have the Overlord. So Overlord subclasses, you can become Balthazar's Bodyguard, which will double your attack skill. By the way, when it comes to like all of these like doubling of the stats, you might be having a question like, hey, is maybe like 99 skill limit the maximum? Because it has been in other Heroes of Might and Magic games. And if 99 is the maximum, then the moment that I go above 50 in that skill, normally, then the skill is already going to be useless. But that is not the case. You can go well above 100. I've already had like a 160 power Warlock, Amelch's Heir. So yeah, don't worry about that. That part is fine. You can go to infinity and beyond. So in order to become Balthazar's Bodyguard, you're going to be needing offense. Just amazing. You're going to be probably having offense on all of your overlords anyway. Wisdom, which is an okay way to get spells. Nightshade, that you probably don't really want, but it's like not trash anyway. It's kind of okay actually. For like an Overlord, Nightshade is okay. Leadership is amazing, and then you also need Diplomacy. Diplomacy is just complete trash right now. You don't really want this skill, so you're gonna be like sacking a skill slot for Diplo as well. it's kind of like hard to make the pivot in order to try and become Balthazar's bodyguard, because, you know, like you're gonna be having like a basic overlord that's gonna be having like offense and leadership, and then you're gonna be getting offered like a first skill towards Balthazar's bodyguard, and taking that first step is gonna be like pretty hard. You're probably gonna be going to either Nightshade or Wisdom, but if you're already in that position where you went Nightshade or Wisdom, when you already have like those two others, then, you know, you could realistically make a push for becoming Balthazar's bodyguard. The payoff is okay, and it's no Fortune's Favored, which is going to be tripling your damage, but it will give you a lot of stats. I would say it will probably boost your damage by like 50% or something. It's really hard to do the math on this, but, you know, it's going to be a lot, and the number is big, and, you know, as a gamer, I really like making number big, so I'm definitely always looking around to be able to, like, achieve this, even if for nothing else that, you know, just putting up a check mark. Yes, I become this. Yes, I did have 200 attack skill. So yeah, like, basically a novelty of a secondary class. And next up is the Silver Tongue's Envoy. This subclass will gain you defense. I would probably say that the payoff is actually a little bit better than becoming Balthazar's bodyguard, because there's a limit to like how much damage you can do, right? Like if you're gonna be one-shotting the opponent's attacks anyway, then one-shotting them more is like, you know, it's just like lost value. But you can always be taking less damage, and that's gonna be like useful. So I would say if you're going to be like going for like an insane amount of either defensive skill or attack skill, I would probably prefer the defense skill in many situations. So I would say the payoff is like a little bit better than Balthazar's bodyguard. And the skills that you need are also going to be a tiny bit better. You're going to be going for Armor, which is an excellent skill. Daylight, which is a pretty good skill for like a mind hero that's going to be using Army to function. Luck is also good. Basically, like Leadership's counterpart, slightly worse. Maybe, yeah, somewhat worse Leadership's counterpart. Scouting, which is good in some formats. And now Sorcery is gonna be like the weird part about this, because Overlords don't really like want Sorcery. They also are very not likely to roll Sorcery. So this is gonna be like a pretty rare find. But I would say that in many games, you're going to be maybe well-positioned to attempt to become Silver Tongue's Envoy, and I would probably like look around for it. Maybe with a lucky university, once again. When it comes to subclasses, universities are going to be like irreplaceable, really, because I once upon a time walked into university and I only had like one skill for a subclass, and that university gave me all the 4 other skills for that subclass. It's insane. So if you really like the sort of playstyle, we're going to be going for like this ultimate skill with like a really big payoff, then universities are going to be your friends. Visit them, and you might just get rewarded. But yeah, I would say this is a kind of a mid subclasses for the Overlord. Something that you can kinda like plan for a tiny little bit, but the payoff is mid and the achievability is mid. And also the likelihood is also mid. So just like mid all around. So I would say these are usually not really worth going out of your way for that much. So yeah. I believe that is going to be all of the subclasses in the game. So far, I actually really like the subclass design. They are pretty rare exceptions to the game. You're gonna be like rarely walking into any subclasses yourself, and you're rarely gonna be playing against any as well. Whenever you do, it's gonna be like a wow moment, or like, oh my god, he did that. I lost against like a Fortune's Favored. He just like one-shot me. And also, you know, you're gonna be one-shotting things with that too. I really like this extra like layer of things that you can find in the game, and it's really cool. As the formats are going to be changing, you know, like in the ranked ladder matchmaking, I bet we're going to be getting some balance on these still. There's probably going to be like quite a bit of a switch up in like what's good, as well as like when the meta develops, it might also like switch up as well. So yeah. I really like the system. I really like Swashbuckler and Fortune's Favor. Those are my top 2 ones. And in terms of community, I believe people really like Amilch's Air the most, because that's the one that I've encountered the most out of other people. I've yeah, out of like the opponent subclasses, I played against 2 Melch's Heirs and 1 Flesh Rot, the one that gives you like, you know, like the lowest morale in the Necro. And those are all of the subclasses that I've encountered in my gameplay so far on the single hero ladder across 58 games. So yeah, rare novelties, but really cool and awesome things to look forward to, you know, to like look into. And it really is able to like spice up quite a few of your games. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Catch me live on twitch.tv/lexshop, where I'm going to be trying to become Fortune's favorite every single time that I play Grow, because I'm addicted to getting big crits. So yeah, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye!